present day, 6 hours after Richard Poole left Sainte Marie. He's not been gone long enough to have even got to Antigua yet, Fidel Best told his DS. And there's no point him calling us on his mobile phone if there's nothing for him to tell us. That's if he has a signal broken bar. Then we tell the commissioner, Dwayne replied, looking up from his forensics files. The lab has been in use for a fortnight, and he was flying high. All the work at his fingertips. We are not telling the commissioner. Our friend is gone, to do God knows what in Antigua, and we don't know why. We need to protect him. Camille put her head in her hands. Fidel crossed the floor and stood by Camille's desk, then crouched to her level. It's the chief. He'll tell us if he wants us to do anything. He does want us to do something. Camille moved her head sharply, and gave Fidel a brief look. She was scared, he thought, with the chief. It was personal this time. Yes, she told him, then got to her feet, and looked at Dwayne. Yes. You got anything? Fingerprints confirming the victim's identity. Other tests. Dwayne looked up, his desk full of reports. It was the first time a dead body has been brought to Honoré Tilde Copyright Forensics Laboratory. It was next door. She was next door. Charlotte Emsbrook had taught Dwayne to call the victims that were to be part of the autopsy process in a way that showed them respect, to remind you that they were alive once, to bring home the purpose. But this was particularly taxing. She, Roberta Weymouth, had something that intimately connected her to the chief. Somehow he would have to be thorough, and thorough again. His mind drifted to Charlotte, and her face, and her body, and to the work she had taught him to do. Yes, they are in progress, Dwayne told Camille, and got to his feet. We have witness statements from the 4 friends who were with her. They were on holiday here. You have a broken bar, now broken bar fingerprints, a broken bar, Roberta Weymouth, origin of murder weapon, Cuba. Rocks were from Sainte Marie, up in the Highlands, picked up I expect, close to hand. Boat checked, no fingerprints match with anything found on her. It was as she fell on that knife and toppled out of the water. Stones in her pocket put there by herself. Both Dwayne and Fidel stared at Camille, who was taking a long time to say anything. Eventually she looked at them both. There was a lot of evidence, little of it making sense. And she had to keep out of her head the idea it was personal. Right, sighed Camille. Fidel, with me, background checks. Dwayne, carry on. Whatever you get, bring it to us, and we will discuss. For the chief. For the chief. Fidel and Dwayne repeated, and the evidence came, and was assembled on the board. 4 friends who had come to Sainte Marie, names, witnesses, that they worked for the same law company along with Roberta Weymouth. All have alibis, Fidel told them. Could it be a random murder? The inspector analyzed the crime scene, so we will look at the clues he brought with him. Anyone know how long Sergeant Stevenson is going to be? It would take about an hour and a half to get to the boat tour company, Dwayne put in. Got to drive out around the headland and the other side of the Highlands. Camille and Fidel exchanged looks. Dwayne noticed it and shifted his weight. You think it's funny, he told them. Butte a broken bar, I don't like him. Neither do I, Camille said. But he's appointed to us, and he's meant to have gone when you came back, Dwayne. But he's hanging around far too long. And, he doesn't know where he is half the time. It doesn't matter how bad your geography is, how hard is it to follow the main road across Sainte Marie. It's 15 kilometers across, and there's only one of it. She sighed in exasperation and put her eyes back to the photos. Opportunity, motive, means. That's what the inspector would say, and he would draw up a grid and start to tick it off. Right, the victim, Fidel began, Roberta Claire Weymouth, both 26th of April, 1986, aged 26, worked for Holly Trott and Lane Solicitors as a paralegal. No police record, lived in London and has worked for the company for 3 years. No siblings, no parents. Home in Dorset, which she let out as a holiday rental. Camille looked across at the faces of the 3 friends, all as washed out and shocked as every person who had ever been photographed as a suspect. Frederick Algernon, junior solicitor, made partner in the company last year. Father John Algernon, Conservative Member of Parliament for Ealing. Fidel pointed out the man, and then pointed to the next photo. Sister, Jeanette also a partner, who was married to Justin Jacques, a barrister originally from Paris, who came to work with Oliver Holly, founder of the law firm after his graduation from the Sorbonne. Camille looked across the faces. All very well connected, she said, aloud, and very into each other's business. Beauty Broken Bar Roberta was not connected to any of them. Fidel shook his head. If anything, Roberta was the oddity. She qualified in legal forensics at University College London, where Roberta met Frederick. A spark flared in Camille's mind, and she looked at the faces again. I want to speak to them this time, she told them. I want to know how well they knew each other. Did they socialize? How did they come to decide to holiday here? Fidel exchanged looks with Duane. Then he moved to Camille's desk. Sergeant, he began. Camille, B insisted, when she wouldn't look at him. She turned her head. The answer to your question is that, yes, Richard interviewed them, but I am investigating now. And there are more questions I need an answer to. Yes, nodded Fidel. We can go there now. He glanced outside. The sun was dipping now. It has grown bigger, the optical illusion that happened when it appeared nearer the horizon. Orange warmth spread out from it over the sea. I'll drive, Camille. But she seemed to be lost in thought. Camille? Fidel asked again. No, you stay here, I need more background checks. The company Roberta worked at, any issues with them? Problems at work? And, she broke off and walked over to the incident board. Then turned. Roberta Weymouth the Broken Bar. He called her Bobby. He said he's Bobby, but something suggested he didn't know for sure. Fidel, can you cross-check any reference we have to anyone of that name? And a broken bar. Her voice dropped low, and she gestured them both to her. And, Neil Stevenson. Something's not right, Camille told them, her voice soft, but urgent. The commissioner told us that he moves on when the police officer he is covering returns. Duane, she nodded to him, you've been back a fortnight, and he looks as bedded in here as ever. No sign of packing, no talk of a new posting. Fidel nodded, smartly. On it, he told her. He was about to cross to his own desk, but his eye was drawn to Camille's trajectory. She wasn't heading for the Land Rover, but over to Richard Poole's desk. What are you doing? He called over to her. Going through the chief's things? Camille had pulled open the top drawer before she was chastened by Fidel's words enough to stop and look up, although not before the shape of a fossil imprinted in a small grey rock caught her eye. It was then the telephone rang. Camille closed the drawer, making for the telephone. Getting up from his desk, Duane got the first and grabbed the receiver from the phone mounted on the station's central wall. Hello. On Ratilda Copyright Police Station, Constable He broke off, staring at the rotary dial on the black machine. Ah, yes, he nodded. Yes, a broken bar. Yes, sir, a broken bar. He put the receiver down, and slowly turned to the others. It was Commissioner Somerton, he told them. There has been a death at the forensics laboratory on Antigua. A man has been shot dead. Who? Asked Camille, sharply, her brain doing the maths. A broken bar. 6 hours wasn't long enough. A broken bar, as Fidel had said. A broken bar. Even if he'd left Saint Marie immediately, he would only just have got the dash. Did they say which man? Her heartbeat accelerated. A broken bar. If it were him. A broken bar. No, a broken bar. Don't let it be him. A broken bar. Who? Fidel asked, and the look on Wayne's face told them before the words that came next. John Gold. I'm sorry, Duane, Fidel told him, after a moment. I know you were friends. Duane sighed, defeated. He had been Dr. Gold's friend. The man had taught him so much. He had. The bitch. Camille's interjection stopped his thoughts and he looked at their detective sergeant. Who? She turned malevolent eyes onto Duane, and savored her words. Charlotte Brooke. She stalked towards her sergeant and constable. That woman. A broken bar deceived this station, allowed an unreliable man to replace you, Duane. Duane nodded at the acknowledgement, a tinge of pride budding in his brain, and now has let her colleague die. Or killed him. Now wait, Camille, Fidel replied, glancing to Duane, who had his head bowed. We don't know what has happened. The chief is over there, or soon will be. Richard Poole, our chief, will solve these a broken bar, you know he will a broken bar. He stopped at the electronic clicking noise. It was the fax machine, an antiquated device which the Caribbean islands police forces still used, it being reliable and far less prone to damage in storms. Camille strode over to it. She barely waited for the A4 pages to finish before tearing it from the machine. Dwayne and Fidel watched her, waiting. Then she looked at them. "Richard," she said. "Is from Richard." She looked at them both and then back to the page. "I am still investigating." "What does that mean?" "He's still investigating John Gold's death," Fidel suggested. "Yes, of course," Camille snapped. "I've lost the suspect, but he's returning." She turned the page over, as if the brief message might be continued on the back. "Well?" she asked. "DS Neil Stevenson," Fidel replied. He watched Camille raise an eyebrow. "I'd bet anything." He was a Met police officer, and was always short of money. He was gratified to see Camille and Dwayne nod to one another briefly. Still hanging around in the Caribbean? Why hadn't he gone back home and carried on his career? Maybe a broken bar because he was trying to avoid someone, or something. Dwayne suggested, walking slowly over to D.S. Stevenson's old desk. The hornless Viking model was still there. By constantly being on the move, opting for assignments abroad, which a family man may not wish to take, is the perfect way to avoid a situation at home. Or a crooked cop, Camille suggested. "It's not as if we've never had one of those before." "We've had two of them," Fidel confirmed. "Charlie Hume was a bad one, but I liked him." "I don't like Neil Stevenson." "Doesn't make him a killer, or crooked," Dwayne told Rem. "And he is out on police business." But the sound of the fax machine chattered again. Camille got to it first, and looked over the words. "Keep this, Camille." "Important." "What is?" she demanded to know. But her question was answered when another page came through. She looked at the top, 3 of 3. Then she looked at the top of the other 2 fax pages. Typical Richard Poole's organization. Wareham, Guthrum, Arabia, Elizabeth, Sidmouth, Braw, Nautilus, Corfe Castle, Brownsea Island. Poole. She read it aloud again. "None of it makes any sense." "Come on," Dwayne encouraged. "It's the inspector. He wouldn't send it otherwise." "Look, he even signed it." Camille nodded, and went to the investigation board. "Fidel, find out as much as you can about Roberta Weymouth, anyone called Bobby Weymouth and Neil Stevenson. He's involved here, I am sure of it." "And you?" asked Dwayne. Camille glanced out of the station doors. The sun was nearly set. "Need to interview Roberta Weymouth's friends before it gets too dark."